evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside the Pigskin. I'm as loud as I need to be because I'm the Motor City Mad Mouth. With that said, I want to go over the crew in just a moment. Before I do so, I'll let everybody know that Inside the Pigskin is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Inside the Pigskin can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for more subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Participate in the chat room. That's one way to do it. Or send your topic ideas to South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. Want to advertise cost efficiently? Give me a call, 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com, Twitter/X @Tribune South. Candy Ebeling is producing the show as well as behind the scenes work on the website. Also have a book out there called Lessons from the Microphone, tuning into the enduring wisdom of visionary leaders, old school media versus new school media. It is available on Kindle and Amazon, and NGVN TV will launch on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and mobile devices. It will be in 85% of the homes in the United States and Canada and 4.1 billion mobile devices. So that should be plenty. With that said, let me go ahead and introduce my crew. Melfar Jr., welcome back as always.
Great to be back. How's everybody doing?
We're doing all right. And next, Bo Crouch. And by the way, a little bit, Bo will be on tomorrow night's edition of the Motor City Mad Mouth Show, which does return. Planning to bring on every week. And Bo is going to be the next one. So looking forward to having Bo on a couple times this week. Welcome back, Bo.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
You're welcome. You fit in very nicely. And Coach Bono, without the hat. What's up, my buddy?
Hey, Scott, how are you? Good to be here.
Wearing the stars and stripes on the sleeve. Good stuff, Coach. I'm telling. We got some topics right up your alley. All that good stuff, man. So you guys are watching color. You can see the stars and stripes, and I'm not sure what he's got on the right side, my right side of the left, but there's an American flag. God bless you, Coach. All right. But that said, Travis, no relation to Sherlock Holmes. Okay, he's back.
Hey, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be talking some NFL playoffs today.
Yeah, I did a really good job filling on the Sports Exchange. Let me just put the book out there real quick. Lessons of the Microphone, tuning into the enduring wisdom of visionary leaders. So there you have it. Available on Amazon and Kindle. All right, well, let me go over the agenda very quickly. We're going to talk about the Chiefs, the 49ers. We're going to talk about the AFC and NFC championship games. We're only going to focus on the losers, not the winners. Ben Johnson and Atlanta's hiring of Raheem Morris, Bill Belichick, and whatever else comes our direction. With that said, we're going to start off with the Chiefs meeting Baltimore, and we're going to focus on the Ravens. So, all right, Travis, what did you take away from this contest?
Man, the Ravens KC game was just, they let him off the hook. They let him off the hook, and it drove me nuts watching the game. And I said it at one point. The Ravens' lack of fortitude to try to run the ball, to try to establish a running game, is what did them in. Like the Chiefs did some things that absolutely deserved to win in some ways. Like they controlled the line of scrimmage as far as when they were on offense, but the Ravens only attempting 8 running back runs in an entire NFL football game against a team who had the 28th run defense in the league. It would almost be a fireable offense if you were anyone else, and that's the big one for me. Like, but the Ravens, and they were uncharacteristically unlike themselves on defense with a lot of those pre-snap penalties and over-aggression penalties and things like that. Like, they let the moment get to them, honestly, in those ways, and that's the reason I say they lost the game more to me than the Chiefs. This wasn't a dominant, hey, Pat Mahomes is Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and they kind of just took the victory away from the jaws of defeat. No, this was more like, no, the Ravens just shrunk in the moment, and the Chiefs did what they do when they were a team who's acting like they've been there before, and they don't make those small mistakes, and that's what let them walk out of that stadium with the victory. And then in that way they earned it, but it stinks if you're a Ravens fan, and I know it does because they probably were the better team, but that don't matter if you're not the most in control of your emotions.
Okay, our turn to Mel.
Yeah, I think Coach can probably attest to this. I mean, sometimes you have to get to those games in order to know what it takes in order to win those games. You look at the Pistons, and the year that they didn't go to the NBA championship before they went on and won back to back. They're probably a better team, but Isaiah ends up throwing that ball, and Larry Bird intercepts it, and they end up losing that game to go to the NBA championship. Sometimes you have to lose those types of games. You have to have that bad taste in your mouth for a full year to really appreciate where you were at that particular time. The Ravens got away from what got them there. I mean, they didn't run the football. They decided that they were going to become a passing-oriented team, and that's not what they do. I mean, they're the number one ground-gaining team in the league, and they decided that they wanted to throw the football. The very first play that they ran, I think it was very successful. A running play was very successful. They got a lot of yards, and all of a sudden, Kansas City goes down there and scores real quick, and then all of a sudden, they're out of their game plan. They're behind and they're playing catch up. They weren't playing very well on the defensive side of the ball, and that's something that we thought that they were going to do. They were very undisciplined, which was very uncharacteristic of a Ravens football teams from some of the personal fouls that they got, and then the taunting penalty that they received when I believe it was Zay Flowers caught that long pass.
Right.
As hard as yards were to gain and to get to get behind the defense, and then to have a taunting penalty that's going to bring you back 15 yards, makes it very difficult. And then tries to make up for it. And I get it what he was trying to do. I mean, because yards were so difficult to gain, he knew if he just ran in there, he wasn't going to get in the end zone. He tried to stretch out, tried to reach the ball over the goal line, and unfortunately, fumbled before the ball crossed the goal line. But I get what he was trying to do, because I'm thinking the same thing. You got to give your body up if you're going to get in there, because you're not going to be able to get in there just trying to run in there. You've got to give your body up, and I don't know what kind of condition you'll be in on the other side of that deal, but at least you would have scored, because yards were very difficult to come by. The way that the Ravens were playing, they just weren't playing very good offensively. So that was a disappointment for me. But I think that they'll be better for it. They're going to have to work extremely hard to get back to that point, because wins are very difficult to come by. Everybody knows that they're a good football team. And I think, I was just more disappointed for Lamar. I mean, he didn't show up. He played played a poor game. And, it was just it was unfortunate. Not the result that I was looking for or hoping.
Okay. All right, Bo.
Yeah, I mean, they were just outside of what it is they do well. The fact that they didn't try and run the ball, like Travis and Mel have already covered, is mind-boggling. They just did everything that they haven't done all year. They turn the ball over, right? They lose that battle handily. They don't run the ball. One of his better passes was deflected to himself. So, I mean, we just we didn't see anything that was good out of the Ravens. That obviously they were getting penalized on defense. They kind of got the defense figured out in the second half. They did shut them out in the second half. But, at the end of the day, you were really disappointed in what it is they were. You could tell that the moment was just too big for them. And they went up against a team that had been there a bunch of times, right? This was their sixth championship game in a row. So they're very comfortable in that atmosphere. And the Ravens, is their first shot at it with this group, and it showed.
Okay, Coach.
Man, I think there's obviously a lot of great commentary there. I agree with everything everybody said. It really wasn't the Ravens team that we've been accustomed to seeing this season. And, I'm just wondering if they were just, sometimes you can be overly hyped. It got that game got really chippy. It stayed that way. And, unfortunately for the Ravens, they were on the, receiving end of the flag fest that resulted of it. And there's some gamesmanship, and you're a player in the NFL, or coach, and if you can get underneath somebody's skin, if you can get them riled up and get them off their game a little bit, you're going to do that. And I think that started in pregame. I don't know if any of you guys saw what happened or heard about what happened with Justin Tucker and Kelsey and Mahomes, and typically like that's going to be like really early pregame. You're talking about pregame where guys are just out there warming up before the teams actually come out for
Right.
the official pregame. So if that happened and, Justin Tucker's helmet allegedly got thrown aside, I mean, trust me, he didn't like just keep that to himself. Darn well he went back in the locker room, told everybody what happened, and something, as simple as that can get those emotions and that blood boiling. And, it's just unfortunate because I think they're a much better team. Hopefully they will learn from it. And, but, hats off to Kansas City. I thought Steve Spagnuolo had an excellent game plan. They played a really good game all the way across the board. They didn't hurt themselves with turnovers or costly penalties.
The only thing I'll add to what you guys have said, all of you have done a really good job on this topic, but I'm just add a couple. Number one, you play for home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Guess what? It didn't matter. Baltimore did not take advantage of it. That's item number one. Number two, I expected Lamar Jackson to be a lot more of a factor running the football. Did not see that either. Will the real Lamar Jackson please stand up? Because we didn't see it last weekend. Had he been more of an impact with his legs, outcome could have been different. But like Coach will do, you know what? Kansas City won when they beat Miami, they did it in the frigid temperatures. They walked into Buffalo thinking it would be every bit as cold. They walked in there and won that one. And what do you think they did? They ended up winning in Baltimore. So the Chiefs earned their way there. But again, Baltimore, home field advantage meant nothing. What can I say? And then, of course, Lamar Jackson, I didn't see him run the football as efficiently as I thought he would run it. So with that said, we'll go into the second championship game, San Francisco 34-31 over Detroit. We're going to focus on Detroit, two field goals that were not attempted. So we're going to start with our special teams guy, Coach Bonamago. Now, before I do that, I have to put my little song out there. With Kenny Rogers, we got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to kick field goals, know when to walk or run. So for all you people that want to laugh out me, yeah, definitely deserve it. I made this popular all week, and there's no way I could not leave it here on Inside the Pigskin. And no, I don't expect to break a Memorex glass here at all. But if this thing goes viral because I'm a bad singer, then I'll be anything but American Idol when it comes to singing. And you know what? I better quit well in my head and let the people that are a lot smarter than I talk about the subject. All right, Mr. Special Teams Coach. As the whole world is waiting to hear from the special teams coach himself, Coach John Bonamago. Should the Lions have gone for both field goals and left points and not leave the points out there, or should they have done what Dan Campbell wanted to do?
Well, I mean, obviously that's the big debate, right? But look, you have Matt Campbell's your coach. I mean, he's been aggressive all year. He was aggressive last year. He's made no bones about that's the way they're going to operate. And sometimes it works in your favor and sometimes it doesn't. Now, look, one of those fourth downs was a drop. Okay, so again, that's a play that has to be made in that situation. But I really go back to bigger than those two things. I think there's two other plays in that game that really cost them. The first one was a fumble. And I know I thought of my good friend Mel Farr as soon as I saw the replay of that. I mean, we learned in Pop Warner that the near hand goes up, the bottom hand becomes a shelf, and whether Goff opened the wrong way or whatever, but it was a basic fundamental. I thought Owens did a really good job in his analysis of that. He said, small mistakes, little fundamental mistakes in the NFL become big issues, and that's what happened. I mean, that turnover right there really, to me, is what opened the door to allow San Francisco to get going and getting back in the game. And the other thing that I think was a bigger decision was running the ball on third down in 2 minutes. Because he had to use a timeout there. They ended up settling for the field goal, and but they had to, now it left it down to an onside kick. They had no chance of getting the ball back by using their 3 timeouts. So that was a huge mistake. I think in that situation, outside of like just some type of unbelievable look that is just going to be a walk in, you have to throw the ball there just to again, you're going to take the 3 points. Now it's not all on the onside kick. You got 3 timeouts to stop them and get the ball back and hopefully have a chance to, tie the game up or get the go ahead score. So those were to me the bigger issues than going for it on 4th down. Because like I said, starting off, I mean, that's who he is. That's the way he coaches. And more power to him. I'm glad he's stuck to that formula. It's worked for him. This time it bit him.
So this time, so what you're telling me is the 2 field goals to you aren't that big of a deal, if I'm hearing you correctly.
Well, I mean, again, I'm saying that one of them's a drop pass, and then now, and I'm saying that that's the way he's coached all year.
Okay.
He's not going to change in that game. I mean, that's if they get one of those, they catch that 4th down pass.
Right.
Could be a very different outcome.
Yeah, my wonder.
And the other part of it too is, like Badgley is not the most accurate guy. I mean,
Right.
He's a good short range kicker. He's a average mid range kicker, and I'd say he's probably, below average long range kicker. I think his 50+ field goal percentage is not real good. So, those are all factors, that are going through your mind when you make those calls.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that a lot of people are wondering about, Coach, and obviously you're having coach position, is leaving points on the table during the playoffs. Is there a lot of validity to that thought, or in this particular case with the Detroit Lions, they just didn't have trust in their kicker, and that was one reason why they decided to go that? I guess there's a couple ways to look at it, but I guess my big question is leaving points on the table in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's what got them to where they're at. That's my whole point. Is they got to the NFC Championship playing that style of football with him taking those type of risks, and it's paid off for them all year. So
that's good for me. And that's what a lot of people are going to wonder about. And I think you definitely went out there and really hit you hit a bullseye with that comment. All right, we'll turn over to Travis. Some thoughts about the Lions. Travis,
I can tell you what my immediate emotional reaction was, and then I can tell you what my reaction was after the fact. Immediately after the game, without question, I went straight to you screwed up, Dan Campbell. I knew you were going to lose them a game eventually, et cetera, all the curse words. Because again, I wanted this to be the Lions in the Super Bowl. I felt like this team, I felt like the fan base, I felt like everybody associated deserved it. And my emotional knee-jerk response was that you ruined it with this decision, forgetting the fact that you had multiple drops by your receiving core on these key moments and these key downs that you kind of, in reality, it's always going to come down to the players versus the X's. It's Jimmy's and Joe's, not X's and O's. And he's playing like Coach said a second ago, he's playing to the way that he's always played. He's playing where I believe in my guys. If you're not a kicker, I believe in my guys, everyone else. And in reality, it wasn't a bad decision. And this is what I can say now that I'm off the cliff. Like it's not me on the field. They had an over 50%, conversion rate as far as the 4th down conversions throughout the year. They've always been uber aggressive as far as that's concerned. And they haven't even attempted a field goal an outside field goal past 45 yards on the season. They haven't. And that's something that no one was talking about. This is a 48-yard attempt. This is not a gimme for a kicker who hasn't attempted one outside all season. So
Right.
even if he were to kick those field goals and miss it, then everybody would have been like, oh, well, it's fine, I guess, because it was the right decision. Nobody cares about what was right. They care about if it worked. And if these decisions would have worked, everybody would have been like, great, attaboy, good job, Dan. If they didn't work, so now he's a chump, or he's this, or he's that, he screwed it up, whatever. That's how the game goes, baby. That's why you get paid the millions of dollars. Sucks, but I kind of don't disagree with the decisions now that I'm off the cliff.
Okay. Fair enough. Both
Hey,
you and Coach.
Scott, can I just make one point?
Absolutely. Go
I
ahead.
apologize, but I just looked it up while Travis was. So Badgley's career field goal percentage for 50-plus yard is he's 5 for 13 in his career. So that's 38%. From 40 to 49, he's 37 and 48, so 77%. So
And
I
a
mean,
lot of those inside also, and that changes the math too.
Well, yeah, Coach, thanks for bringing those facts in here. We appreciate it. This more or less validates everything that you said from the outset. Thank you, Coach. I appreciate it. Good stuff. Good work. Now, then again, you're becoming a journalist now in your second career outside of coaching. Okay. Of all the people that have come a long way over the last season here, Coach Bonamago today, this guy's come a long way. He really is. And I'll tell you what, I don't care whether I've trained a lot of guys that are younger or some people older. Coach Bono, man, if you ever go back into coaching, great. I know I'll get an interview from you because I know how to get a hold of you. If you don't, you decide to stay with me, it won't break my heart. We'll just go ahead and build this bad boy together and live off of your insights and experience. I could go either way. I'm not going to lose no way with you in this program.
I need a raise to what you're paying Mel.
Yeah, well, if you do, well, then you know what? I got news for you. You and the rest of us here. That's why I'm out there behind the scenes looking for ways to do it as well. So
100% a raise of zero, still zero, right, Mel?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
I'll tell you what, Coach.
Double it.
Coach, when the time comes that you write a book, I'll make sure you have an opportunity to market it on here, and anything we could do to help put some moolah in your pocket, or as
I
a
need a ghostwriter.
No, don't worry. I'm working on a couple of those for you. I really am.
All right.
I got a couple in mind. I'll give her your number. Actually, she used to work for the Deerfield Beach Observer, so I'll make the connection. I've never let you down yet, have I, Coach?
No, you haven't.
What makes you think I'm going to start now?
I know you won't. Thank you.
Exactly. Bingo. All right, on the Mel.
Yeah, I think Candy said it best. I mean, hindsight's always 20/20. I don't have a problem. I mean, if it were me, but I'm not a gambler, so how I would coach a game is entirely different. But this is who he is. That's who he's been ever since he got there. He's aggressive. I don't have a problem with it as a player. I would love it because that means your coach has a lot of confidence in you, in belief in you in his team and in his guys. But the guys just let him down because they didn't make plays. I don't have a problem with it. I know what he was trying to do. I mean, he was trying to put the nail in the coffin. He had him by the jugular, and he was trying to squeeze tight. He was trying to make sure they got no air. He was trying to end the game. I mean, he wanted to remove all doubt, and I don't blame him for doing that. The guys just didn't respond for whatever reason. That team that came out in the second half looked nothing like the team that was out there in the first half. In the first half, they looked like, it was unbelievable. I blinked, and next thing you know, they had 7 points. I'm like, what happened? I just went up to get something out the refrigerator, and next thing you know, they had 7 points, 4 plays, 75 yards. I had to go back and restart the game from the beginning just so I could see what happened because I missed it all. And then I caught up through the commercials. So the way they played that first half, was they played about as good as a game as you could play in the first half. And in the second half, I don't know I didn't recognize that team that came out there. They just looked different for whatever reason. I don't know if they got too confident in the locker room, maybe started drinking some beers, popping some champagne bottles already, thinking, making plans about, what gal they're going to take to the Super Bowl, what clubs they're hitting up that night. I don't know what the conversation was, but it wasn't good. I know that because they came out and they played as poorly as they played all year long in the second half. To give up the amount of points that they did to San Francisco in the second half, the defense played as poorly as it could have played, and the offense played as poorly as it could have played. So, but I don't have any problems with what he did because that's who he is. That's who he's been all year long. You don't want him to change in the playoffs. So that shows me then that the pressure is getting to him. That if all of a sudden he's trying to kick field goals all the time. That's saying, okay, the pressure's getting to him, because normally in these types of situations, he would go for it. Now, there was one time that he did kick a field goal early on. He did kick that field goal. I think it was early at the end of the first half or something like that, to get the score to 24-7. He kicked the field goal as opposed to going for it, because it was a little bit, I was asking a lot. And hey, let's get some points going in the locker room, and let's feel good about it and come back out, act like it's 0-0, and let's finish this thing. But they just didn't finish it. That's not like them. The Lions, like I said, they just like to be around, hang around, be close towards the end, and they'll figure out a way to finish. And they didn't finish. That was not like them. So, but I don't have any problems with what he did whatsoever.
Good. Okay. All right, Bo.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, if he would have came out and kicked those field goals, you would have been looking at it kind of weird. You'd have been like, they're not playing their game. All of a sudden, we've already seen this, right? We saw the Ravens not play their game. So you would start really asking questions if he started kicking the ball. Now, personally, if I'm a coach, I'm probably kicking it, because I like seeing points on the board. But against a team like San Fran, you kind of have to punch it in the end zone. You can't let them hang around. That's not a team that you can let kind of creep back into a game. So if you have the opportunity to nail it home, you definitely do it. Now, obviously, that running play where they had to use a timeout, that was obviously a mistake. You run passing plays there to preserve your timeout. That's just a clock management issue. So that one falls on Dan Campbell. And he acknowledged that actually in a press conference the next day. So, he says that that's something he probably should have done differently. But, when you look at the fact that he goes for it on fourth down all the time, I didn't hate the play call. It was an execution issue, not really a play calling problem. And when you saw Jared Goff's press conference, words are hard today, I guess. When you saw Jared Goff's press conference, he was saying, yeah, he loves that play call. He loves that he believes in his team, and he just needs to throw a better ball in that situation. Now, it was actually not a terrible ball. I mean, it was a straight drop. Like, it could have been a little bit better, but I mean, that was a very catchable ball. Yeah, I don't know. But as far as leaving points on the table by not kicking the field goal, we're only saying that because they didn't execute. Otherwise, this isn't a conversation at all. So would I have kicked a field goal? Sure. But that's not what this team is.
Well, judging by Coach Bono's facts that he just gave us here, I think it's pretty easy to say that the Lions are going to be looking for a field goal kicker during the offseason.
I mean, they don't use him anyway.
What's that?
They don't use him anyway. They can keep him.
Also true.
Yeah, they don't have Gus the Mule walking through those doors. They don't have Eddie Murray walking through those doors. They don't have Matt Prater at his best walking through those doors. They don't have Jason Hansen walking through those doors. So they're looking for a field goal kicker, but I can't resist doing this again. Okay, Kenny Rogers, you got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them. You got to know when to kick the field goal, and you got to know when to walk and run away. You got to do it, man. This has been my thing all week. Got to do it to you guys. All right.
I mean, based on those stats, I think he did know his guy probably wasn't going to make it.
Well, you know what? It's a good song, so it don't matter how we have it. I've been using it all week, but no, you guys did a really, really great job breaking this topic down, probably better than all the other shows out there, because what you guys did on this, and I haven't been watching those shows any this week. I didn't want to care. In fact, I'll be out of the loop of watching TV over the next 2 weeks, and I'm even thinking about taking my wife somewhere to not watch the Super Bowl, because I don't want to hear I want to relax. I want to get more work done to plan more stuff for us and all these other shows, the other networks we're talking about. But you know what? You guys did a really good job breaking down both sides, talking about it objectively and not emotionally. And that's the biggest trap a lot of people make when they're in journalism. They really do. Get emotional, get the clicks. You guys look at it from both ends. And that's where I'm really proud to have every one of you on this broadcast. I really am. I say that from my mind and my heart. And you guys have nailed it, period. I mean, and Coach goes out there and comes up with these facts and is putting on the journalism hat, even though you don't have the hat on today, but at least he's wearing it. Anyway.
So to answer Fernando's question here, sports fans ever satisfied? No, never.
Exactly.
I mean, they can be content though.
I mean,
Like,
they
if you-
they would have been satisfied if they won the game, I think. But
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
because
for
they
a
didn't.
very brief period of time, though.
Right, like you have the New England Patriots fans. They had a full season where they were content after Brady resigned. Resigned. Went to a new team, and they kind of knew that you were going to be in the midst of a small sort of rebuild. You don't see them like they're not flaming the coach. They're not picketing and wearing clown masks like my Jacksonville Jaguars fans wanted someone fired. Like they're content. They have a season or two that they're fine, or even after the Peyton Manning Indianapolis Colts years. If you have enough success, you might get it. You'll buy yourself at least 2 years.
It's funny though because it's kind of quick. It's kind of quick that turn,
Yeah,
right?
that's
When
about
you
it.
have a lot of success, all of a sudden being that content becomes discontent real quick. You're almost better off to have the Lions where they've been bad a really long time. Like,
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Frozen.
I don't know if you want to be the Lions. Like that's a little much.
Well,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Definitely don't want to be the Lions.
when
dude.
Patriots, no. What I was saying is they're excited about a win for the Patriots. If they don't get a ring, it was a failed season now.
Right. No, I hear you. I totally get where you're coming from. So, all right. Well, you know what? Not all is bad in Detroit. The biggest foregone conclusion everybody thought was going to happen isn't going to happen. And we're going to talk about Ben Johnson staying with the Lions as their offensive coordinator. Apparently, according to Adam Schefter, he may have priced himself out a little bit, and some teams were spooked. It wasn't, and as it turns out, the Washington Commanders are going to interview Aaron Glenn for the job, anyways. So, I like the idea that Ben Johnson's coming back, continue to build that offense and decide where he really wants to go when the time is right. Loyalty, I guess, does mean something to Ben Johnson. So, even though it was a tough loss, and I think Jared Goff and the whole offensive unit could play every bit as good next year as they did with this group, especially with Ben Johnson leading the way. Well, you know what? We're going to start off with the guy that finished off, and that's Bo. All right, Ben Johnson sticking around. You like it?
I mean, yeah, for Detroit, it's fine. It's kind of a bummer for the Seahawks,
Yeah, right.
they were still in that market. They need an entire coaching staff still. So, after getting rid of their OC and DC this week. So at this point, it would be nice to see them making steps forward. But for Ben Johnson, yeah, I mean, obviously if the number wasn't what was going to make him, jump ship, then yeah, you go back and you try and run it back. See if you can, learn from the mistakes you made through the playoffs here. And, it's going to be a tougher division next year, but I still think they're the front runner there. And maybe run it back. So I don't know what he was asking for, but it had to have been sizable.
18 million.
What's that?
Yeah.
18 million.
18 million a year?
Yep.
Yeah, see, I would have struggled wanting to throw that money after a guy that hasn't been a head coach yet.
Well, I heard numbers of 15, 18 million, like you said, Bo.
Yep.
Who's going to shell out that kind of money for a guy that hasn't been a head coach yet? I don't know. NFL owners are rich, but I don't think they're stupid. That's why they became billionaires. So, all right, Coach Bono, talk about Coach Johnson.
Well, here I think there's conflicting reports about that now. And his agent Richmond Flowers, who I coached in Jacksonville, has come out and said that that's not true. I mean, I crossed paths with Ben in Detroit in 2019. He was an offensive quality control coach for us. I was always been really impressed with him. Really, really smart guy, good person, good family man. I think that, I think this has been waiting for the right opportunity, not just, an opportunity. He was in the same position a year ago and interviewed for a bunch of jobs and made the decision to stay where he was at. And, last year was his first year calling plays. I mean, he's doubled down this year. He had even better year, better numbers. I think this is as simple of a guy having maybe, something that we don't see a whole lot of in professional sports is number one, self-awareness, and two, patience. You know, those jobs are fantastic. They're extremely hard to get, but they can also be short-lived if you're not in the right situation. I think he did the absolutely, you know, in hindsight, walking away from the Carolina offer a year ago. I think that's turned out to be exactly the right decision. And so, you know, as he's looking at these rosters and he's having conversations with, you know, general managers and ownership and that sort of thing, you know, there are probably some things that maybe just, you know, didn't sit well with them, or he just felt like, you know, looking at a year out, maybe there might be another team, you know, a la, you know, the Chargers that opens up, that's got a quarterback that's a proven commodity, and you know, where he could go, and you know, wherever you go, the expectation is not going to change. You're getting hired to win, and you know, if you don't, you know, not in the playoffs, you're not making progress. You know, you're not in the Super Bowl. You know, in 2 years now, 3 years at the most, they're going to be having another press conference introducing another head coach. So I think that Ben, in my opinion, is looking for more than just, you know, hitting the NFL lotto. I think he's trying to, you know, get someplace where he can have some staying power.
Well, that's a good point too, Coach. So let me continue on that trajectory where you're at. Number one, Ben Johnson has 2 years left on his Lions contract, and the Lions did not readjust the money to get him to stay. So to Ben, it's more than just about money. I think he wants to finish this thing through, is what he does, and get him to a Super Bowl and win it. And then at that particular point, his bargaining power will be a lot higher anyway. So everything you said, Coach, is to me right online. So Mel, why don't you pick up where I'm at and provide your own observations on it?
No, I agree with Coach 100%. I mean, I think the numbers may have been out there, but you look at the team that number was thrown at, was at Carolina. That's not really a good job. They don't have a quarterback. And the unfortunate thing about him, you know, for him, is because they were playing so well. It's very difficult to get the interviews, and those positions get, you know, the better jobs probably got filled earlier. Like the best job probably out there was probably the Chargers job. Now, you know, Coach talked about patience. You know, I think, you know, Sean Payton, if he could do it again, he probably would have waited, sat out another year, and see if he could have got that Chargers job. I mean, everybody kind of thought that Chargers job might be available last year. Ultimately, it was not available. It became available this year, and it's a very competitive market out there. You know, Jim Harbaugh wanted more than $12.5 million, but you know, the Spanos family, they wouldn't give him more than that. But so he went ahead and took the $12.5 million. But that's probably, and he's a proven commodity. He's won in the NFL. He's won at the college level. So he's a proven commodity. You know, Ben, he's not a proven commodity as a coach, as a leader of men, as a head coach, as a leader of men. He's done a great job with that offense. But I think just like Coach Barno said, and it's the same thing that I was saying, those jobs just weren't attractive to him. You look at the quarterback situation in Washington. You know, who's your quarterback? I don't know where they draft at. I'm sure, you know, they may not be able to get one of the better quarterbacks. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know where they
actually got a bunch of picks. Like, you're going to be able to build a team there.
But are you going to be able to get a quarterback though? That's the question. You know,
so they'll be able to get a quarterback, but I mean, everybody's going to be young, so they're not going to be good first year.
Right. Well, you know, and you know, normally you get a mulligan in your first year, unless you're in Carolina or
exactly.
Denver. You know, when the guy was out there in Denver, normally you get a mulligan. They'll give you 1 year, and it's unfortunate. I mean, you look at Arthur Smith here in Atlanta; he never got that position. So I mean, you know, he came in there. They're in cap hell. I think they're $50 million over the cap, or whatever the case may have been. So they had to deal with that, and then, you know, you finally get out of that. You finally get from up underneath the cap problem you have, and say, okay, now we might be able to do something. And the next thing you know, you just let go, and it's tough business. So, you know, like Coach says, you know, you want the right situation. You just don't want a situation. You just don't want to become a head coach. Like I thought D'Amico Ryans. I mean, I didn't think that was a good situation, but he's made it a good situation. You know, that wasn't the best job because, you know, the 2 previous years, guys lasted 1 year and that was it. but he's made it a good job. And then they got the guy, they got the quarterback, they got that position
Right.
taken care of. Now they got to build around that. Get a running game. I know they got Scott's favorite running back down there, but they got to be able to run the ball a little bit more efficiently and take some pressure off of that guy. But anyway, yeah, I think I'm like Coach. I think he's just waiting for the right opportunity. I don't think it was a matter of him saying, "Hey, I want to finish this here with the Lions." I think if the right opportunity was there for him, he would have jumped at it. But I am happy for the Lions because that does give them an opportunity to finish what they started. Because so often when teams are successful, other teams come and cannibalize your squad and then your coaching staff, and then you're trying to put somebody in that person's place who had some success there, and it doesn't always work. I mean, look at what's going on in Philadelphia this year. They lost both their offensive and defensive coordinators. So I am glad they get an opportunity to run it back.
Yeah, Frank Reich only lasted 11 games, so that pretty much backs up everything you guys are saying. All right, Travis, go ahead.
The life of an OC is short-lived these days. I mean, everybody's just transitioning to head coach or out of the league apparently. And this one was a shocker to me a little bit, just because I mean we saw not too long ago when Byron Leftwich passed on coaching hires, and then all of a sudden was out of the league, and not in any of the coaching interviews, and that was a weird one to me. So to see this happen with Ben, not 1 but 2 years straight, it felt like rolling the dice. But to Coach Bono's point and Mel's point, I mean, I think everybody's kind of agreed with Coach's original point. This is probably being looked at a little bit differently than the way that we think is that than we the public are looking at this. Like, if you're just looking at this like a job, I mean, I don't know how many of you have ever had a job and you wanted to be this one thing. All like, I used to be a manager of an insurance company. If anybody doesn't know that, I used to be the manager of a major insurance company that over the entire nation, and I quit the job. Because what the job isn't what I thought it was going to be, or it wasn't what I wanted. And I learned from that. And I would never apply for that job again without it being the exact situation that I truly wanted it to be. I'm not interviewing with them. They're interviewing with me. And that's probably the way that it feels like he's looking at this. Like, I'm going to turn down Carolina, Indianapolis, Houston last year, and then turn it around and turn down Washington and Seattle this year. And he only turned down Seattle after talking with them on the phone, having the in-person interview, probably asking those hard questions. I say all that to say, it sounds like he's treating this like some of us treat corporate America. I'm going to interview. I'm not just interviewing with you. You're interviewing with me. Sell me on why I should take your head coaching job.
Right.
Pay me enough to get off the couch and come over from my great job where my family's happy in this city and I don't have to move everybody, and we're doing great. We just went to the divisional championship. Tell me why I should leave this situation to move to this cold place or this place that my family has no links, et cetera, et cetera. And it sounds like nobody sold him.
Especially with the idea of having to go to Seattle, because there's going to be a lot of pressure on you to be great and be great immediately. That's going to be the toughest part of coming to Seattle. Is you're not going to get a lot of leeway. You're going to take command of a team that has a lot of players, right? That's had a ton of success over the 14 years that Pete Carroll's been there. You're going to have to be good right away. It's not like Washington where you get to build something, or Carolina that if you flame out, everybody's just going to look at it and be like, yeah, that makes sense. But I mean, you come to the Seahawks, like, you're going to have to be great right now.
But it's not just that, though. Like, he'd be leaving a great situation where he loves the locker room, he loves the staff he's around, he loves the city, he loves all these other things, whatever, the puff pieces. He loves all this stuff. But he could easily leave this job, and then let's say he did flame out to the next coaching stop. Then he's going to have to go be an OC at some place that he probably doesn't have as good as a situation that he's actively in right now. No, I understand the patient route. At that point, yeah, just let's find the right one, or I'm going to stay where I'm at and be just fat, happy, and comfortable. We know the people that work that job, and they can work the job with their eyes closed, and you're just feeling real comfortable, and everybody's happy. The whole family, everybody's doing great, everybody's growing, and I'm just real content. Nothing wrong with that. Take that time, man. Enjoy yourself.
Well, you know what, Travis, what I like about everything you said is the fact that you went out there and were smart enough to recognize an opportunity wasn't as good as you thought it was. and now you're giving advice to just everybody, since this is a general show, that people can take what Travis just said in terms of interviewing for a job. You interview them like they're interviewing you. And, you make a lot of good points, Travis, but the one thing I'm taking out of it is what you did in the interview process. And I think that makes everything that you said before good. Okay. But the interview part, I think, is the best thing of all your points on this particular segment. Everybody's gone and talked about Johnson, right? Just want to make sure I've gotten everybody. Is that correct? All right. Well, you know what? We're going to stay in Atlanta. Mel Farr gave me a reason to do it. Now we're going to stay in his hometown. Let's talk about the hire of Raheem Morris.
I was kind of surprised by that because I really thought that Arthur Blank was going to hire Bill Belichick. He was the only one that was interested in him. And then for whatever reason, they decided to pivot away from him, which I would totally agree with, because if you look at, just being realistic, you look at his record, with Tom Brady and without Tom Brady, it's two different worlds. He has not been successful without Tom Brady. I'm happy for Raheem Morris. It's going to be a difficult job. He had the Tampa Bay job. He's a head coach of Tampa Bay when he was real young. Probably was a little bit early for him, and he's got an opportunity to mature a little bit more. I've heard nothing but great things about him, and I'm looking forward to seeing what type of energy and what type of program he's going to bring here to Atlanta. Now, the one thing they're going to have to do, they got that cap situation taken care of. They are going to have to address that quarterback position. They have some skilled players, whether it be wide receiver, tight end, running back. They got an offensive line. The offensive line is pretty good. They got some pieces on the defensive side of the ball. They got some good. They're good in the secondary. They got a pretty solid team, and they play in a very weak division. So I'm going to be interested to see what they're going, what he's going to do here his second go around, because he did have the interim tag here when Dan Quinn was fired. He had the interim tag here for a few games where he was the coach. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to do. I was really surprised by it, but I'm pleasantly surprised that he was given the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to it and wishing nothing but the best.
Okay, Travis, what are your thoughts about Raheem Morris?
Yeah, I mean, I think pretty much everybody can say this was a shocker for sure. And not that it wasn't deserved. It's just that you don't generally have a billionaire have a decision that they're have a decision that they're ready to make and be talked off the ledge. Like we've seen enough of these horror stories in the NFL that, man with millions of dollars in the bank account wants to do this and basically does it. Drafts Johnny Manziel, hires so and so as a coach with no NFL experience, does it, et cetera, et cetera. This is just one of those situations where it seemed like Arthur Blank was going to hire Bill Belichick because that's what he wanted to do. And it seemed that it took everyone in that locker room or in that executive office to talk him off the ledge, but successfully they did. Terry Fontenot found a way to essentially hold on to his power based on his draft history, based on his recent free agents, based on what he's done in filling out that team and growing that franchise. Whether or not they were successful, we know we had a train wreck of a coach, unfortunately. But knowing that Bill Belichick wanted the power, reportedly that it sounds like he still wanted, like that he had in New England, probably helped make this an easy argument, because we've seen the rosters that Bill has put together as far as his recent draft picks and free agency have just been suspect. I think that's the best way I can probably put it for such a great coach. The GM Belichick was cutting the knees out of the the coach Belichick, unfortunately. So having that guy in your office selling you to take more power from a GM who's actually been doing a reasonable job. I can't say incredible, but a reasonable job.
Travis, let me just point out to you that we're going to get to Belichick in a moment.
Yeah. I got you. But the pointing out, but someone who's done a reasonable, if not maybe even solid job at drafting, that'd be a hard sell. So it made total sense. But overall, this was a great situation for Raheem, because now he can build this team around this solid defense that we've already seen. And hopefully we'll see again what happens with the quarterback. We'll see what happens with the OC. I know they're kind of cutting that down to the last few candidates, and if he gets that right OC like they did in Houston, get you someone like the next Bobby Slowick or whatever it may be, maybe he can keep this thing popping. But again, we know he has a running game. We know he has a defense, and we know he's going to be good in those two areas. So good stuff.
Okay, Coach.
I'll just say I'm a big Raheem Morris fan. I know him, fairly well. I think he's a great fit for Atlanta. I think he's going to do great. I mean, again, you talk about a guy that has kind of flown under the radar. Has had a opportunity to run. He's had an opportunity to be a head coach. He was very young when that happened for him in Tampa. Hey, look, we were talking about Belichick. You look at what Belichick did in Cleveland, and then, however many years later, he takes over a New England franchise and really, turned the football world upside down for a good period of time. So I'm just, Roz is a great communicator. The players will play hard for him. They will, they will love him. He is smart, and I think this is a great hire for the Falcon fans and for the city of Atlanta. I think it's a match that I see him and Terry Fontenot and Rich McKay and that whole group. I see them working hand in hand, and just to hit on Belichick. I mean, that he's an acquired taste. Belichick is going to demand a lot of different things. And, there were probably, honestly, a lot of people in that front office had Belichick taken over. They were probably going to be out of jobs, because he's going to want control and he's going to, want to be able to do things his way. And his track record and his resume dictates that he can demand that. And he will get that from a franchise. It just doesn't look like it's going to be this year, but he will get it at some point very soon.
Okay, well, that's fair. I mean, I know you and Travis are looking ahead to Belichick because actually these topics do go hand in hand. It's not a big deal. Fact of the matter is you're just trying to compare and contrast, and I have zero problem with that at all. All right, we'll turn it over to Bo.
Yeah, I mean, like everybody else, I'm going to blend these two because
That's okay.
they directly correlate with each other. But I wasn't incredibly shocked that they went with him. He was on the radar of a few different teams, including my Seahawks. So he was going to be interviewing for a head coaching job. At four different places, as I recall. So it wasn't a huge shock, and why it wasn't a huge shock to me is because of what Bill Belichick requires for him to come in, right? And some of that is a culture building that has to happen. And he's 72 years old. Like at some point, he's not going to be your guy, right? So if it takes you a couple of years to get the culture to where it is, he wants it to be, right? He takes over the GM. You're also doing football completely different than Atlanta does, it has in the past. But you have him in there. He builds his culture. So once he's changed all of those things, he has 2, maybe 3 years before he's probably hanging it up at, 77, right? Say he's there for 5 years. I mean, all of a sudden you're spending all this energy building a culture that isn't the long-term answer. I don't know how you do that, because then whoever comes in next is another huge culture shift. Whereas bringing in Raheem Morris, there's elements of this that of football operations that doesn't have to change dramatically for him to come in and do what it is he does. So I like this. I like this hire for him, and it makes a lot of sense that Belichick may be sitting out. Obviously there's still a couple of teams. You never know. The NFL is a weird place. Something could happen, but for all intents and purposes, it looks like he's probably not going to be picked up by a team. And honestly, I don't know if he does, outside of a desperation move by a Panthers in search of their 6th, coach next year.
Well, as I understand with the Panthers coach, I think they gave him a 6-year deal is what they did. So
yeah, that doesn't mean anything in the NFL, though.
No, but it's good to be able to have that bankroll coming in, especially if you're a head coach coming in.
They're still paying Matt Rule.
Exactly.
They got 3 coaches on salary right now for the next 3 years.
So anybody else want to actually blend these two together? I have no problem with it. I think it's great because the two go hand in hand. So
I mean, I disagree with Bo when he said that he might not get a role in this system. I thought like Washington was going to be a good landing spot. They have a new. It really just depends on, I guess, what the new GM feels, whether or not he'd be someone that's comfortable, or whether or not the owner will be comfortable overriding him just to get Belichick in the building. Uh, I thought that was a train wreck enough of a franchise that might actually do something like that, if that made sense. That they just felt like they just had to get him in the office.
So I guess let me ask you this, because their new GM is the assistant GM to John Lynch. Do you think personality-wise that would be a great fit?
I mean, I couldn't tell you if that's personality-wise or not. I've never met him, and I don't know, because he's close to Lynch doesn't make him like Lynch.
True.
Just like someone, my wife being close to me don't make her like me. We absolutely different, but
Well, here's I think a fair comparison is you look out at the Chargers and what just happened with them hiring Jim Harbaugh. Right, they hired the head coach before they hired the GM, and where did the GM come from?
His brother.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you'd be a fool to think that Jim Harbaugh didn't have quite a bit of say so in, who that GM was going to be. I mean, he might not have made the sole decision, but he definitely had a strong vote. And I would say with Belichick, it's going to be very, very similar type of situation. It's going to be a GM that, he's worked with in the past, or it's going to be an organization, a club that has 2 vacancies, and they're either going to give him the reins and let him do all of it like he did in New England, or they're going to hire him as a head coach, but he's going to be able to handpick who he wants to partner with. And again, he's been in the league a long time and had a lot of success. And, I think there will be somebody that affords him those basically those luxuries, for lack of a better word.
all right, let me add one thing really quickly here, and I love bringing this guy on here because he's a friend of the show, James Burgess. Okay, Gutshot Lions fan reporting in. Thanks, James. I was wondering if you're going to make it, and you never let me down. Thanks for being on here. To me, I look forward to seeing you every single week on the show. All right. The only thing I'm going to add to what you guys have said is this, okay? I don't think we're going to see Bill Belichick getting a TV job. And if he does, he better make sure he expands his answers for more than a few words if he's looking to go ahead and sit. We talk about my book being called Lessons from the Microphone. Well, Bill, you know what? You've been in the microphone a lot, so you can't give short answers if the producers and the executives are making you give longer ones. That's number one. 2024, it's not the worst thing in the world if a coach sits out for a year. How many years did Dick Vermeil sit out until he went out there and won a championship with the Rams? So if you take a year, now then again, how many people are in their 70s doing it when he's chasing Don Shula's record? That's another story. So it's not totally uncommon there for that to happen at all. So, hey, you know what, Bill Belichick, the only thing I actually wonder about, to me, is whether he's being judged by the last 4 years without Tom Brady. And then that's a thing that people will wonder about. I mean, we can talk about that all day long, and I don't think any of us are going to have the answers. But right now, when you look at where the head coaches are, they're leaning towards a lot of younger blood right now, at least based on this coaching cycle. And I'll tell you what we're going to talk about, not this week, but we're going to talk about it next week. So to give everybody a preview of what next week's show is going to be like, we're going to talk about Eric Bieniemy, okay? But we didn't have time to get to it tonight, but that will be a topic everybody can look forward to on Inside the Pigskin. But I know what I'm trying to do right now, well, number one, we have one less game to talk about, maybe one for which we'll be predicting on, depending on what other people I have come on the broadcast. So, but every one of you guys make great points, and I'm going to set the record straight. I don't mind that any of you guys on this crew overlap the two because it's very easy to do it. I don't need apology. I don't really worry about you guys because you know what you're talking about. And if one topic overlaps another, so what? Because after all, peanut butter interacts with jelly. Now, is that a good announcement? Well, I don't know. It depends if you like them or you don't. We'll leave the food thing out here because it's not the Food Network, but I don't know. We'll leave that a little bit. I got a little bit of laughter from some of you guys here, so whatever. You want to interact them, go ahead and do it. Hey, let me tell you something. This show's as much as yours, okay, Bo, Travis, Coach, and Mel, as it is mine. All I am is a guy out behind the microphone producing the thing along with Candy to make sure your opinions can get heard to a fair amount of places. All I'm doing. So, no, I don't care. I run a loose ship. I don't care. It's all about having fun, informing, entertain, right? We all do agree on that, right? Entertain,
Right.
fun, and
Yes, sir.
entertain, inform. So it won't be the first or second. It won't be the last time that we have topics that coincide with each other. Well, sure, but the main thing, people, is this, okay? There's so many different ways to look at these openings, and we don't know what they're going to do. I don't think I can say about Bill Belichick should he get hired again? He like Coach said, he may look for the right general manager to do the job and let him focus on coaching. I don't think you're going to see many more situations where the roles are combined anymore. I really don't. But time will tell, because that's a lot of responsibility. I don't think you guys were really old enough to understand. I think Coach Bono and Mel and I know about it. But many, many years ago, Monty Clark, when he was hired by the Lions, occupied both roles. And Monty told me it was tough to do. And that's when other people started to do both. But then nowadays you have to deal with the salary cap, and there's a lot more involved. So, no, I mean, it's a different. Well, getting back to James Burgess' comments, when we get to the Ben Johnson thing, I'll probably take too many posts because I'm a paragraph guy. All right, I had to go out there and get my feet straight. 144 character tweets. I suck. Don't feel too bad. I don't think a lot of us are great when you have to keep it limited. I'll shut up a bit. You don't have to, James. Who cares? I'm extending this broadcast. I know you got a lot of things you like to get, so what's a couple minutes here and there? But at that point, so there's a lot of different ways you can approach these topics. There really are, and I don't really think that there's really a wrong answer, especially when you don't have any answers. All you can do is just base yourself on basic facts, okay, and then people will formulate their own conclusion. I refuse to ever come down on any team coach if I can help it without trying to make sure the facts are both sides. The biggest thing you learn in journalism is to be objective. If you have facts to back up your opinion is legitimate. Now, if you're just throwing something out there and you can't go out there and win by just an opinion without any facts, I might kind of wonder about it. So, all right. So James Burgess is now on a roll. Okay. Candy will put that bad boy up. Anybody want to comment on it?
Well, this is interesting. So Belichick's best fit was in Dallas. If Jerry wanted to get out of his own way, Will was his answer. But I can't hate Jerry for what they did. I don't know. This is a weird one, because again, if Bill Belichick being a defensive guy, it just changes everything. If he was an offensive coach, this would, like with the implementation of spread offenses and basically running these college offenses in today's NFL, you either need to be a guy who calls your own offense, or you need to have that guy. And Bill's shown objectively that he cannot find that guy over multiple seasons.
There's a guy sitting. His offensive coordinator is on the street. The guy he's been successful with, and they can put the band back together.
Yeah, okay, let me just add one thing here real quick. I know Bo has to get going, so and I have him tomorrow. Bo, before you go, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you, and then we'll keep this thing going.
Yeah. So you can find me at all the socials at Bo Football Talk Bo. Man, wow, I'm just struggling today.
Say bye, Bo.
And then, of course, you can find me on my YouTube channel, Football-Talk, and, of course, Roku TV 5 days a week. Thanks again for having me on, guys. Great to see you.
We have him here tonight, and he'll be on the Motor City Mad Mouse show tomorrow, so look for it. All right, Bo, great work tonight, all right?
Take care, Bo.
See ya.
All right, so now we can go back onto the other point, okay, very quickly. Travis, I think the Dallas thing is an interesting one. I don't. Time will tell. The only thing I can say about what you're saying, James, is Mike McCarthy did not get extended, so that could be a situation that could play out 365 days from now. But he's on he hasn't been extended, so we'll readdress it then. But good point. I like your question, James. We'll
Can I
see
ask the
how it plays
question?
out in
How would
2023.
Dallas have worked though?
They could
Like,
have hired Belichick and kept McCarthy as offensive coordinator.
ooh, like we know that's not we know that's not happening. But more so, they don't really have
They
a
could have
real
demoted
GM.
him and made him offensive
They
coordinator.
don't really have a real GM. Even when they have a GM, we know who's in charge.
They
It's
do have a real
Jerry.
GM. What are you talking about?
It's Jerry though. Like
He's the
Jerry's the
GM.
GM.
He's the GM.
So when Bill says I want the power, which is what reportedly he would have said to the Atlanta Falcons,
Right.
how do you
Right.
get Bill Belichick to come into your team and be over the owner? That's not a working relationship. That's not gonna happen.
He can't be over the owner.
That's my point. Like, because Jerry's
I'm
the
just
person
saying.
who makes who puts the chefs in the who puts the ingredients in the kitchen.
I
So if
mean,
you what we
that wasn't
doing?
that wasn't gonna work.
That was never gonna work.
Jerry's like James Brown. He pays the cost to be the boss.
Yeah, well, all I'll say about this, because we could go on and on about this whole thing here, but the reality is, as long as Jerry's there, okay, he's not giving up the power. Robert Kraft may have done it for a lot of years, but it didn't hurt to have Tom Brady in the building as well, so that Bill had a little bit more, influence on what was
Most
going
of the
on.
owners do leave that football stuff to football people, and then they come in and step in when there's time to make a change. But
Right.
for the most
Yeah.
part, though, they're not involved in day-to-day decisions, and they're not involved. They don't have radio shows. And
You're right. Jerry's the only one.
Yeah,
Right.
no, that's-
Well, did you hear the report about the report of the former Cowboys whatever it was media person who stated that they listened to all the former, there was one of the former drafts that they had, and that Jerry took a phone call where he was offered a trade from the Detroit Lions about an unnamed player is what they stated. It was like 2 minutes long, and an unnamed player, he's like, "Nah, listen to the phone recording." Like he's like, "No, they offered this player. Jerry didn't even know the name of the player. Hung the phone up, said I'll call you right back." Never said anything to anyone else in the room. GM, you're talking coaches, etc. Didn't say anything to anyone. Lions call back. All right, so what do we have a deal? Forget about it, and hangs the phone up. Never tells anybody else. And I'm like, wait, what? So he never talked to his coach. He never told anyone else that this trade was. Then I'm like, oh, it starts and stops with Jerry, good or bad, because again, he's built some solid teams. But to not talk about that to your people at all, like to even find out who this player is because he didn't recognize the name in the phone call, I thought that was hilarious. So I'm like, yeah, that guy versus Bill Belichick. Yeah, that's never gonna work, man.
Yeah, the only thing missing would have been Jimmy Johnson, who was calling the shots when they won. So we'll leave it at that. So Bill did the defense, Tom did the offense in New England. So absolutely true. Bill needs an offensive coordinator. You're right, James, but he won't need one this year because he's not going to be coaching. But unless you want to go ahead and talk about Josh McDaniels, we'll leave that for next week's show. Should we get around to talk about it? But good point, James. All right. So with that said, that pretty much concludes our broadcast tonight. Okay. So any of you guys have any final comments as we get ready for no NFL football this weekend, unless you want to call the Pro Bowl games anything, which I'm not gonna.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm excited. Yeah, I don't know about you. You won't have to love it for football purposes, but I don't mind watching an exciting flag football game here and there, or some skills competitions. I miss the old school, like basically Madden-esque competitions, throwing through hoops and all that stuff. There is some fun in that, so I'm looking forward to that in Orlando.
Well, many years ago, I actually covered a Pro Bowl game here in Miami, so it doesn't really matter. And my good friend Jerry Green, God rest in peace. Jerry was a good friend of mine in Detroit. Said, you know what? I never covered them. I didn't care for them. They're garbage. So when Jerry Green, who's a Hall of Fame, and Coach Bono, you know who Jerry Green is, right? Remember him? Yeah, and I know Mel does too, right? Jerry Green. This guy here is a king. Up until the last year or so, he had been to every Super Bowl, and he came down to Miami. We talked about that's okay. I hope you enjoy it, but I don't think they're worth anything. So whatever. So any closing thoughts, real quick, from any of you before we call it a night?
I think I'm good.
Okay. Well, with that said, Mel, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
Get a hold of me on all the social media at Melfar Jr. Also follow what we have going on for the youth down here in Georgia and also in Michigan at melfar.org.
Okay. All right, Coach. I know yours is easy.
Yeah, mine's easy. You can find me here on Tuesday nights most weeks, and then on LinkedIn, or if you're driving the streets of Palm Coast, you might find me.
Oh, there you go. I'm sure we will. I'll find you soon enough when I get my book up there, and then we're going to go out there and have some light to eat. So that's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. All right, Travis, go ahead.
You can find me on all the socials, Travis D. Holmes. You can find my writings covering the Jacksonville Jaguars at bigcatcountry.com as the news correspondent. And throughout the season, you can find me at, the Jacksonville Jaguars games or events with A7BN Sports as their game day analyst. Thank you, guys.
All right, I like James Burgess' closing thought. Good to see all you enjoy a bye week till the big game. Well, you know what, James, we always enjoy having you on. Great stuff, pal. All right, I shall let everybody know one more time that Inside the Pigskin is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Inside the Pigskin can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for more subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Send your topic ideas, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Want to advertise cost efficiently? Give me a call at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter/X @Tribune South. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes. I have a book out there called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom, Visionary Leaders. Pretty much all about old school media versus new school media. Available on Kindle and Amazon. So with that said, on behalf of Bull Crouch, obviously, and Travis Holmes and Mel Farr Jr., as well as Coach John Bonamego, I want to thank you very much for joining us on this edition of Inside the Pigskin. We will see you next Tuesday with our annual Super Bowl show. So looking forward to having this panel on next week. And we're going to be talking some super stuff, pun intended. Yeah, the only thing you won't hear is me singing like I did on a couple of occasions tonight. So I don't have to worry about breaking any Memorex classes for those that remember it anyway. So, all right. So good night, everybody. And thank you very much for joining us. And we appreciate the crew staying on a little bit longer to address these important issues. You guys are the best anyway. So what else can I say? Am I biased? Yeah, I'm guilty as charged. Good night, everybody.